Whenever a person starts behaving somewhat unusually these days, take notice. Don't do it obsessively, and don't constantly question their motives, but rather tune into that silent, instinctive feeling that tells you, all right, a shift has occurred. The reason is that occasionally, the focus isn't on their words, but on what has finally become visible to them. I know this could seem quite intense, but bear with me, as this is truly a significant turning point. Over an extended period, they've been trapped in their own thoughts. It hasn't been strictly regarding you, but mostly about their own journey, their repetitive habits, and their personal insecurities. It's that internal whisper questioning, is my effort sufficient? Or do I even measure up? When an individual resides in that mental space for too long, their vision clouds. They begin deflecting. They make baseless guesses. They build walls around their heart rather than being completely present. You probably sensed this happening. Perhaps you noticed the emotional gap, the unpredictable behavior, those instances when you made an effort to connect and received merely a fraction in return. Just adequate to maintain your optimism, yet insufficient to provide safety. Let's be real, enduring that alters you eventually. The impact isn't immediate. It sneaks up on you quietly. You begin to lower your standards. You try convincing your mind that everything is okay. You assume they are merely occupied. Your patience grows into something that feels uncomfortably silent. Eventually, you lose track of the heavy burden you are carrying. You simply continue moving forward. However, this is exactly where a transformation took place. It wasn't a massive, theatrical climax or a cinematic scene. It was merely an internal pivot, a brief instance where they genuinely paused and observed you, truly understood who you are, disregarding the function you serve in their routine, ignoring the constant, reliable persona you present. They just saw you. When such a breakthrough occurs, it feels slightly awkward because they suddenly recognize details they previously overlooked. Things like your unwavering dedication, your endless generosity, and the immense tolerance you've displayed without ever demanding a reward. That realization strikes with a distinct impact once a person gains the mindfulness to acknowledge it. Suddenly, their focus shifts from their own ego to considering you. They start reflecting on how you must have navigated this entire situation. For a fleeting yet profound second, they step into your perspective. This isn't a superficial empathy either. It's an authentic reflection. They wonder, how would it feel if I was the person on standby? How would I cope with the lack of clear answers? What if I was desperately trying to remain vulnerable despite feeling incredibly uncertain? Naturally, this type of epiphany is quite unpleasant. The discomfort stems from the new awakening, and awakening alters the entire dynamic. Now, pay close attention to the crucial part. This awakening didn't merely stir their emotions. It opened their eyes to a stark truth. They grasped that your endurance has a breaking point, and your companionship is not an absolute certainty. The phenomenal way you've supported them isn't a trait found in just anyone. Above all else, they comprehended that they had been undervaluing your worth. It wasn't done with cruelty or deliberate malice, but rather through the common flaw of presuming that steady loyalty is permanent. Today, that naive presumption has vanished. Consequently, the dynamic shifts. They can no longer rest in complacency. Consciousness has awakened, and with it arrives accountability. This is the stage where the situation becomes serious, as experiencing an emotion is vastly different from transforming one's actions because of it. At this exact moment, they occupy a mental zone where they recognize that failing to make an effort means they might lose a vital piece of their life. This isn't a hypothetical concept anymore. It's a tangible risk. Believe me, they aren't treating this possibility casually. You may not witness the effects right away. There probably won't be a grand declaration, yet deep inside, a psychological shift is happening. They are contemplating the harsh reality of being cut off from you, of sacrificing the unique bond you've extended, and of figuring out entirely too late that your presence was exceptional. That specific breakthrough is exactly what modifies a person's conduct. The dynamic is no longer driven by ease and comfort. It has transitioned to a matter of worth. At long last, they are beginning to comprehend yours. I need you to focus closely on this next point, as it holds immense weight. Simply because a person reaches an epiphany doesn't guarantee an instantaneous transformation. It cannot delete the past events. It cannot rewind the hours spent in anticipation. It certainly won't magically morph them into the ideal partner you require. The only thing it achieves is unlocking a new possibility. The subsequent events remain entirely unwritten. This is exactly where your role begins, because while they navigate their newfound clarity, you are concurrently processing your own emotional journey. Let's face the truth for a moment. You have been shouldering a heavy load as well. It might have been a silent burden. You may have tried to downplay its significance. Perhaps you convinced your heart that it wasn't a major issue. Yet, if you look inward honestly, the pain is present. The exhaustion of holding on, of wandering in the dark, of constantly offering more effort than you are receiving. Surviving that requires immense strength. Even if you refuse to vocalize it, even if you mask the pain perfectly, it continues to reside within your spirit, and you owe it to yourself to validate those feelings. There is a harsh reality that the majority prefer to ignore. Having potential is entirely different from taking action. Wishful thinking does not equate to concrete assurance. It is entirely possible to have faith in a person while simultaneously demanding a higher standard from them. These two realities can live side by side. If you've been anchoring yourself to the fantasy of what might happen, it is completely acceptable to question the reality of the present moment. Your precious time, your mental bandwidth, and the emotions you've invested are incredibly tangible, and they hold immense significance. Therefore, an authentic crossroads exists right now, not solely for them, but for you as well. At this juncture, you are no longer merely stretching out your hand or blindly reacting to their delayed awakening. You are actively deciding your course of action, which is a position of immense strength. You have the option to remain, to endure a bit longer, and to provide them the room needed to evolve into this newfound mindset. Alternatively, you can determine that your contributions have reached their limit, that your endurance is precious, and that your personal boundaries are critical. You can declare that you refuse to participate in a dynamic that only functions when the other party is terrified of your departure. The undeniable fact is that you aren't required to wait around to be selected. You possess the power to prioritize yourself. Opting for yourself doesn't necessarily equate to permanently locking them out. Rather, it involves establishing a firm perimeter around your self-esteem and refusing to compromise on it. So, perhaps in this moment, rather than pondering, what steps will they take next? You should pose a separate, more rooted, and authentic question to yourself. Ask, what are my actual requirements to experience safety, appreciation, and deep respect? Once you ask, truly absorb the response you receive, because that profound truth belongs solely to you, not to them. The actions they choose to take regarding their recent awakening rest entirely on their shoulders. However, the path you forge with your newfound lucidity is strictly your responsibility. That is the exact location of your true strength, not found in lingering, not found in endless wishing, but in discerning whether a situation resonates with your true worth. Should they actually step forward, embrace this awakening, and transform into a partner capable of matching your energy, you can evaluate and make a choice as it unfolds. Yet, you are under no obligation to grant someone unlimited access to your tolerance simply because their perspective has recently shifted. You have already sacrificed a great deal. You have consistently been present, and that effort holds tremendous value. Ultimately, the fundamental question isn't, are they going to transform? It might actually be, do I have the desire to stick around while they navigate their growth? Whatever conclusion you arrive at, ensure that your choice respects your own dignity equally as much as it respects the bond you share. You are worthy of a partner who doesn't require a harsh reality check to perceive your worth. You merit an individual who naturally spots your value and actively nurtures it, without fail, not exclusively when the fear of losing you sets in. If this exact moment marks the dawn of their realization, perhaps this should also be the moment a profound shift occurs within your own heart. Not as a mere emotional reflex, but as a moment of absolute lucidity. And attaining that level of clarity has the power to alter your entire universe.